Welcome back to Rad Dads, a podcast where I, Micah Sherman, interview some of the coolest dads I know who have a big heart for their families and an even bigger love for Jesus. Today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing one of my dearest friends who is an expectant dad-to-be in a few months. Our verse of the episode is brought to you by Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Grab your coffee, let's get started. Welcome back to the second episode of Rad Dads. I am so stoked to be able to interview one of my really good friends today. And if you listened to the first episode, you heard that we do the scouting report. So I'll get to do my homework on my friend. And most of I knew, but there was other things I didn't know that he maybe doesn't know.
Oh no.
So we'll find out. And just wanted to say, if you guys haven't listened to the first episode with Brett McCracken, author of the Wisdom Wisdom Pyramid, not the Wisdom Period.
Different. That's something else.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
Don't Google that.
We won't Google that. And Hipster Christianity. So we had a good time. Think you'd enjoy it. So here we go. Scouting report. And then I'll officially introduce you. Scouting report for Andrew is, he is the Director of Internal Development at Control Air Enterprises, LLC. Did I get that?
You got that right.
Okay. Bachelor's in Christian Studies and Global Studies. He is a worship leader, deacon at his church. Are you still a deacon? Are you an elder now?
I'm still a deacon. Not an elder yet.
Okay.
I'm still a deacon.
Verify that. All right. Some of his gifts and talents include motorcycle building, whittling, cooking, dancing, singing, guitar playing. He's a co-lip sync battle contestant with me in the past and can pretty much teach himself just about anything he puts his mind to. A Swiss Army knife of men. Wow. I really liked that.
Wow.
And we've known each other for how many years?
14.
You got it.
Yeah.
That was fast.
Well, we were just talking about our 10-year reunion.
Oh, that made it easy turn. I set you up. But that last thing, Andrew, I was just saying, so Andrew Scherer, welcome to the Rad Dads podcast.
Great to be here.
Thanks for being on the second episode. And I was thinking something that I really admire about you, Andrew, is your gift of not only learning something, a skill or knowledge, but like retaining it. And there is my daughter's toy keyboard.
This episode is brought to you by Fisher-Price. Not an official sponsor, but open to it.
You might have... That was really like... Da.
That was a C chord.
Okay, here we go. No big deal. You were really good at like learning something and retaining it like nobody I know, whether it be a song and lyrics like to a T movie, or skills like just building a motorcycle.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's really kind of you, Micah. I
That's
feel like your podcast is taking a big step in the wrong direction, man. Going from Brett McCracken, esteemed author and elder.
No. You're Swiss Army knife of men. So here we go. I also asked your wife to give me 4 characteristics that describe you. All right, there's probably more, but I asked her to give 4.
Okay.
And so she said that you are fun, faithful, wise, and teachable.
Wow.
She's a fan of you.
She's a keeper.
Yeah. I hope, you should definitely keep her.
Yeah.
And she should keep you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Done.
All right. So let's get into the interview. Andrew, could you kind of just tell us a little bit? I told everyone a bit about you outside of your home, but tell us who you are at home.
Yeah, who am I at home? That's a great question. Like Micah said, I like to learn a lot of stuff. I would love to say that I'm a reader. I'm not a great reader. I'm a listener, and I constantly feel guilty about that. But I like learning, so I listen to a lot of things. I watch a lot of YouTube. I have a list of projects that's 10 times longer than I can ever get to. Who am I? I'm a hobbyist, Micah.
You are.
There's people who have this like deep drive to like justify their existence and to like make an impact on a world. Like if I could go back in time and I was just like an independently wealthy lord in England, I wouldn't be like discovering elements. I think I would honestly just be like riding around the countryside, hunting foxes, playing golf, throwing some.
You have hunted rabbits.
I have, yeah.
I've heard stories of
your
hunts with rabbits.
I don't know what California will do if they hear this podcast.
We won't discuss any more about that.
None of that. But we have a dog that we love to play with, love to hang out with my wife. We love watching movies and talking and tackling projects together, and
Cool. And you have something you're kind of expecting, right?
Yeah. So Mike asked me to be on this podcast, and I was like, I'm only a dad of a baby in a belly.
That's right.
At this point, I don't know.
How old is that baby?
I don't know how I'm supposed to say that.
A baby in a belly.
The baby in a belly. That baby in the belly is 25 weeks. 25 weeks. Yeah. Okay.
So it means you have how much? Because I should know this, but how much longer?
Here's the thing. I don't really understand how this whole 40 weeks thing. By the time we found out we were pregnant, supposedly it was already 4 weeks. So Here's what I do know. Mm-hmm. Our due date is April 22nd. Okay. So
it's about like 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.5 months.
3.5 months. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you are the title.
I'm not panicking. You're panicking.
No. We're not panicking here. It's coming close, but you got some time here. So the title of the episode is Expectant Dad, because you're expecting.
I am.
A child, a newborn baby. Can you share just kind of a little bit of your guys' story from, before getting pregnant, and kind of now where you're at with you and your wife, only a few months away, and how's that kind of been, the ups and downs of that?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think everyone who has a child has a story and has a journey as to how they got to that point, and they range so much. I think of friends who I'm close with who went through several years of trying before getting pregnant. I think of friends who found out that they were pregnant and lost children, and just the absolute devastation that comes with that. And I think for Michaela and I, our story was we got married and said, hey, we're going to take 3 years, just enjoy being married, and then we'll kind of talk about it at that point. And a little over a year into our marriage, COVID hit, which
throws a wrench into everybody's life.
Threw the world on its head, and wasn't exactly a moment in time where everyone was like, man, let's bring a baby into this world. And so took us a little bit more time and a little bit more just sort of journeying and wrestling through. I think you kind of get to that point in your marriage where you don't have kids, and people start poking and prodding and going like, hey, when are kids coming? And I think we were pretty close to that point. A friend said it well. It was actually Kira, Brett's wife, where she talked about why are you pestering them? They love their life. They love each other. And I think for the most part, that really was our story, is even up into the point of becoming pregnant was like, man, I don't feel like we're pursuing a child out of lack. I feel like we really do love each other. We love our life. We love our community. We love our friends. We love our commitments. And so the process of deciding to pursue a family was a pretty long process for us. I think I was probably ready faster than Michaela. And so even in that, there was different points. I think one of the biggest fights we'd ever had was about just being on different pages around kids and timing and misunderstanding each other's desires there. And I think it was a lot of just processing, waiting, and some prayer as well. I think, Michaela has a ton of these stories, but just to share one, in the lead up to us beginning to pursue a family, Michaela was kind of constantly in the state where she was like, man, I'm just laying out the fleece in front of God to say,
Yep.
like, should we do this? Is this okay? Like, am I going to be okay? Is our life going to be okay? Is our child going to be okay? There's so many unknowns that enter the picture when you begin to pursue a family, and just the kind of the scariness that can come with that. And one day she was praying and she was like, God, if this, like, if we can pursue this and I'm going to be okay and our family's going to be okay, like, just give me a sign. And we were supposed to go to the driving range with a friend that night. And she was like, just like, show me a pink golf ball at the driving range.
A
pink golf ball.
Golf ball.
She didn't tell me.
Okay.
She was like, show me a pink golf ball. And then we didn't end up even going to the driving range. The next day, one of my good friends, Michael, like, out of nowhere called us up and was like, hey, I like have a tea time with a friend, but we have 2 open spots. Do you and Michaela want to come? So we went. We got to the first hole, and I shanked it way off into the bushes. And I went tromping out to go find my ball and couldn't find it, but I found a pink golf ball.
No way.
And like came back to the green and like threw it to Michaela and was like, here, it's pink.
And you still didn't know?
Yeah, I had no idea at that point. And she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I don't get it. But yeah, and I mean, I think that's one story. I think we probably have 8 or 9 different stories
really?
like that.
Of just kind of confirmation and peace going forward.
Yeah. And I think for Michaela, where it really kind of landed, and she's so much better at telling this story than I am, but was just this point of recognizing, like, man, the Lord gives us the ability to make decisions. And he had sort of spoken to her enough to say, like, hey, in everything that comes, I'm going to be with you. But had also just kind of convicted her in her heart, like, hey, I've given you just the will and the ability to make a decision and to walk through that and to own it. And so that kind of clicked for her, and we decided to pursue a family, and I think 2 months later found out that we were pregnant. So like I said, so many different stories. I know so many people who've really wrestled with that phase of pursuing a family. But for us, it was really like a lot of lead up and waiting through whether or not we wanted it. And then here we are.
Yeah. I like how you said, I think a lot of people, and every story is different and unique to itself, but a lot of people sometimes will pursue growing a family and getting pregnant out of kind of pressure and or out of lack, is what you said. And I feel like that you guys have enjoyed like your marriage so far up until now, and like I think that you guys have really tried to be present in that season from an outsider's perspective, and have asked those questions probably with people and with God. Okay, Lord, is it now? And maybe a little bit anxious, but also excited, and a mix of everything. But I like that you said that, because I think it's important to ask yourself, are we doing this because we feel like we're lacking something? Or are we doing this because, like, we feel ready and not pressured, but we want to start a family?
I mean, I'm someone, it's so easy for me to get focused on, what's next, and whether that's the next thing that I want to learn or the next project. And I feel like something that the Lord has just taught me over the last season, really through COVID, has just been kind of this idea that, even in the physical world, fruit is seasonal. And we don't really experience that, with our supply chains and figuring out how to grow and import fruit from around the world any time of the year. But, strawberries grow in a season, and oranges grow in a season, and they don't grow in every season. And so I feel like the Lord has really been teaching me how to enjoy the fruit that grows in each season. It's so easy, whether you're single or whether you're dating or engaged or married. I'm sure with kids, like, I'm sure you could teach me a lot about that. Just how easy it is to like walk past the fruit of that season and be
for sure
like unsatisfied with it, and like, but I want what grows in the next season.
Yeah.
But just learning to like savor what's in front of you.
Oh yeah. I feel like that's the challenge of life, just enjoying the present. And it's so hard because everyone else, and you feel like this cultural, like, but just, it's the future and it's what you don't have, or it's the past. Like, and like I feel like God is so much in the present.
Yeah.
That's where he is. That's where he moves, and that's where he works. And so,
what's the, like, where you're at right now with your two kids, right? Because, remind me their ages. So Pax is what, under a year?
Pax is like a year and a half. Yep.
Okay.
And then Logan will be 4 this month.
Okay.
So the challenge for us is like, man, I can't wait till they go to bed. And it's a reality. Like we look forward to that because that's like me and Cosmo's time to connect and to catch up. And but yeah, like really trying throughout the day, like, coming home from work, like, all right, I get this time to be with my kids before they go to bed, and during the week, and then making sure the weekends too, like I'm getting that special time with them. And it's easy to forget and to plan, like our calendar, like our calendar is already filling up so much, and like we're like constantly like, hey, do we need to kind of backpedal here? And less is more, quality over quantity. So
you got some good stuff on that calendar.
Yep, there's I didn't draw everything, but I didn't draw anything.
Some of those, I don't even know what they are, but I'm like, that looks like a good
little
time.
Octopus people that Logan's added on there.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not allowed to draw anywhere else, but she was allowed to draw there.
Yeah. February 1st is going to be a big day.
Watch out, world. Whatever that is. Cool. Best advice you guys have been given in this season as you are preparing for the baby to be?
Yeah. Man, that's a good question. I've been kind of surprised by...
or maybe it's the worst advice.
Well, I feel like I've been surprised by how little advice we've gotten. When we were married, it was like everybody in the world had advice, like we have this story about, we had porta potties at our wedding because they were outside, and there was like this lady at the porta potty rental place who just gave us this like 15-minute monologue about
lucky you,
our advice about the wedding, and she got really stern with me and told me to be sober, and I was like, I don't know you, but yes, of course.
Like, lady's got a story to tell.
She's got a story.
She told you.
I think she told most people that came through that porta potty rental place. But I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know that we've gotten a ton of advice. I think there's been like different people who are like tentatively strong in their conviction around everything from sleep training to all the practicals. So I don't know that I have a great answer for that.
Well, I know that like, and I don't know if this is somebody who's told you, but like the fact of just enjoying your season, like for sure is, I think, important in everyone. Cool. We'll move on to the next question. Let's move on. I'm excited to hear about this one because I think that
all right,
this is a good one. We'll see. So obviously, you and your wife, I'm sure, have talked about becoming parents, and it's this bittersweet change that involves a sweet baby, but also means sacrificing more of your time, energy, hobbies. Talked about your guy of hobbies. What would you say to people that maybe really want to start a family, but are struggling with the idea of kind of giving up your me time, those hobbies, potential kind of dreams, goals, as they start a family, and they're kind of, anxious of like, do I have to give up these things, or that's kind of stopping them, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I don't know that there's a blanket answer. Kind of like we talked about earlier, I think that each one of us is on a journey individually and with our spouses, and if you're walking, in faith with the Lord as well. And so I think sometimes we can, at least I'll speak for myself. I know I can. Sometimes I can just sort of turn off certain channels or questions or thoughts or compartmentalize. And sometimes that's okay. You put something down and you pick it back up. And yeah, so I think it looks different for a lot of people. I think for us, we kind of reached a point. I think for each of us, the Lord had stuff that he was convincing us of his goodness,
right,
and really of his design, that, man, God has made us with the potential to bring life into the world, and that actually is part of our calling, is to be people who are fruitful and multiply and bring forth generations and raise them up and teach them how to love and obey and to be, his anointed ones and to bring peace. And so I think it really started for us to some degree around kind of this concept of calling and inheritance, and felt like, man, what would it look like to raise a family that, puts down roots and has their own, spiritual inheritance.
Yeah.
We go to and serve at Southlands in Brea, and our pastor, Alan Frau, a couple of years ago was talking about this idea of California calling, and it can be kind of in vogue to point out, California's shortcomings, of which there admittedly, there's a lot, and there kind of is everywhere. But actually, he was sort of challenging people to say, man, what does it look like to have a concept of calling to this place that God's placed you in?
Great question.
Yeah,
as everybody has a mass exodus out of California.
Yeah, and I get it. I have family that's left. I understand. Everything from cost of living to concerns about how the state's being run, all those things. But for us, man, we just really felt this sort of moment where we felt like God was like, no, like this is home. This is home and their roots. And so for us, it kind of the question of kids almost came out of that. And just sort of pondering like, man, what would it look like to have an inheritance in California, and for people to come to know him through our family and through our kids, and
kind of almost as an act of faith.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're gonna stay here, and we're as an act of that, like, we're gonna start a family.
Yeah. And I think out of that, like, there were things that God needed to speak to each of us and convince us that he was going to be good to us and faithful to us. And I have a pretty vivid memory of being in church on a Sunday morning, and was just worshiping, and kind of out of nowhere, it was like I just felt the Lord just kind of speak to me in my heart and just say like, hey, I'm gonna take care of you guys. I'm gonna provide for you guys. Like, you're gonna have enough, and it was like that thing where you didn't know that was a question that you were asking, but it hit you in such a way that you just kind of melt under the weight of God's voice and under his kindness. And it wasn't like an audible voice or anything like that, but just was just sort of his presence with me, and was so I had my own things, and Michaela had her own things, but I think we kind of reached this point where we felt like someone was missing, in our family. And I've heard other parents describe it that way, where they reach a point where they're, whether they have no kids or two kids, where they're like, no, there's someone else missing in our family. And we really love our life, really love our friends. And we admittedly don't have a ton of margin, I think most days or nights we're doing something, and so to say yes to bringing a child into our family means that there's gonna be things that we have to say no to.
Sure. Yeah.
And that kind of speaking to that question of the wrestling with it. But I think we kind of hit a point where like, man, it feels like someone's missing in our family and in our home. And so
that's cool. I just love how much you guys have brought God into this process. and like just, through a lot of prayer and asking questions, like, hey, God, show us a sign. And it just sounds like God has really been gentle with you guys and directing you of like the perfect timing, and like, hey, like this is a good thing. Hey, California is where I want you guys to be. Which he could have said something opposite too.
Totally.
Of like, hey, I want you to move.
Yeah, he still can, but
right. Yeah. But like inviting God into that, like he's gonna show you when.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that sometimes, that like
Yeah.
God wants to help you. He wants to like direct you. But he's a gentleman. Like he's not going to often push. Like he wants you to ask.
Yeah.
He wants his kids to ask, so that like that, kind of advice would be wanted.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
And just to like dissuade any myths of like us being super spiritual or really good at praying and stuff. Like I sort of look back and I'm like, man, I really should have been praying more. Or even through this, this season as preparing, I'm like, man, we're praying for him. We're praying for our soon to be son, and we're talking about him. But there's entire weeks where we go by and we're like, oh my gosh, now he's 25 weeks. Yeah, I didn't even pray for him last week, And so, just like for any dads listening that would be like, oh no, or any soon-to-be dads that feel like you're not praying enough. I think the moral of the story, at least Michaela and I's story, is less about our own spirituality and our own fervor or prayer, and really is more just about God's kindness. Yeah, and I think that would be that'd be the takeaway for me. Like, hey, like God is going to be kind to you on your journey, and that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be free from suffering. I'm sure that my family will have our own fair share of suffering. We live in a fallen and broken world, and that's a reality, but God is going to be kind to you. And that's what I hope people take away. That's what the Lord's teaching me, and I'm sure I'm going to need to draw on that in the future.
You will. Yeah. I promise you will. There will be drawing on him often, praying without ceasing.
You're like, oh, you're going to pray.
You're going to pray. You'll be on your knees. Begging for help from the Lord. Just kidding. But not really. Like, you love prayer. Okay, a little bit lighter question. Okay. All right, we're going to get a little bit out of the deep end. We can take the floaties off. Do you know anything on your baby registry? And if you do, what are you most excited for?
That's a great question. I do know things about my baby registry. My wife, Michaela, really likes to feel supported, which means that I support her by listening to her read the list to me. Okay. And I don't understand what half of the things are for. Yeah.
But you want those baby wipe warmers.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing.
Oh, I don't know about that thing.
You don't need them.
Okay.
Continue.
Cool. Good to know. I'm a sucker for a good stroller, Like when you watch a dad at the park, and he like just effortlessly pops the kid out of his seat, and he grabs the stroller with like one arm and just like shakes it somehow.
Yeah, it pops.
Yeah. It like pops, Yeah. So I think probably stroller.
Okay.
It's on there.
Yeah. There's some fancy strollers out there, man. They keep getting more. They're like little transformers.
There's some fancy everything, man. We were looking at and decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is real. Yep. I'm sure it only gets worse. Yeah. As your child grows, but man, decisions about what kind of bottles. And then you suddenly have to like get a PhD on nipple confusion. Yeah. Things that like
you never thought.
No.
You need to be professional.
We were looking at these bottles yesterday, and like I thought we had settled bottles. Like I was like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Target.
Yeah.
Up and up, we're good.
Yeah. Great. Like I don't know. And then all of a sudden this like out of left field, this article comes in, on Baby List or whatever about nipple confusion and like how your baby's going to get confused and how you need the right one. And you're like, there's 17 different versions. Yeah. So the list is long. list is confusing.
Yeah.
Stroller,
But
final
stroller
answer.
is number one. Yeah, that's a good thing to be excited for, though.
Yeah.
You know,
What
they're
was the best thing that you guys got?
Man. For whatever reason, a nail clipper with a little LED light bulb on it, like a flashlight.
Wow.
Nail clipper. We use it all the time. Well, when we clip their nails.
Wow.
Because you try clipping a kid's nails when they're like awake. You know, you got to do it in the dark when they're asleep or with their bottle. So a little tip for you. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's just tears if you try and
Yeah.
clip it when they don't want you to hold them. Their their hands and everything.
I'm just picturing like putting the kid to sleep, getting out.
Yeah.
My like backpacking headlamp
It's
with like the red.
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't wake him up.
But all just in a little clipper. Yeah.
Wow.
And you don't need the baby wipe warmers.
No. Okay.
Kids don't realize the temperature. That was my advice given to me was, gotta get that. But I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you don't need them.
I feel like, when we got married, that's kind of the only other, big registry type thing I have to compare it to. But
yeah, right.
I remember there being certain people in our life that was like, you got to register for China. Like, find China.
Yeah.
And being like, why?
Exactly. I don't know.
We
Where
didn't.
Did that start?
We didn't
know.
We didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe some people still do. I don't know.
Right.
But it feels like that same thing,
Yeah.
Where there's stuff that you're like, man, we probably need that, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, we're gonna get this thing, and it's gonna sit
in
the closet
right
for 2 years,
mm-hmm.
and then we're gonna give it to someone.
Yeah. But the good thing is when you get stuff, you can always return it.
It's true.
So there's no pressure there.
It's true. We started getting some hand-me-down baby clothes this week.
There you go.
Which is great. Love that.
Ones for the win.
Weird, man. It's weird to just like see this little outfit. And go, like,
just wait. It's awesome.
Oh, there's gonna be my child in that.
I know. Little baby boy. Little Andrew. All right, now we're getting a little deeper.
Okay.
Not super deep.
Do I need the floaties again?
You might want to get one of them.
Okay.
You might just want one of them. What has supporting your wife looked like in this season? You mentioned listening to the baby registry as one. Are there any others?
That is the question, right?
Supporting it? What is supporting your wife look like
it's
season?
funny, Micah, because
getting your pickles in the middle of the night. I don't know if she has any cravings.
She hasn't. We talk about that a lot, actually. She had probably like a week and a half of like severe cravings during the first trimester, and it was Taco Bell.
Okay.
And so I was very supportive.
Yeah, I know you're a Taco Bell guy.
She was like, "Oh, I don't know," and I was like, "We're going."
Yeah. Don't need
This is about you. This is about me.
All about
this
you,
isn't
babe.
because I want.
All
I
about
want
you, babe.
Bean
Crunch wrap
Dorito.
supreme, made out of Doritos.
Yeah, I'm very supportive when it comes to her cravings.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. No, it's a good question. I think it's interesting because, and I've heard people say this in the past, but it just doesn't ever click until you're in those shoes. This is gonna sound terrible, but I can go like a full day, even 2 days, and like it's not until like I'm getting up in the morning and I'm watching Michaela like roll over and like press herself up, and I'm like, why is she getting up? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Like she's growing a baby.
There's a baby there,
yeah. and she's a stud. She's an absolute stud. And so like there's nothing happening for me physically, and so I think it is a bit of a discipline to remember that like her and her world is changing before mine is. Mine is gonna change drastically, but hers is already in that process in a way that mine isn't. And so I think supportive has just been trying to figure out where she feels. Usually for my wife it'd be fear, where she feels afraid, and then figuring out how to help bring support and resources into that. So I mean, even this week, we were talking about birthing methods and natural versus,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
you know, more decision
That
fatigue.
can be stressful.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we've been taking classes at our hospital, so we are doing that. And she was just like, man, I feel like I need more than that. And so even just finding, you know, okay, where's more resource?
Sure.
And so I feel like those have been some of the ways. And yeah, I think everyone's different. Like I said, Michaela's a stud, and she isn't super vocal always about
Sure.
discomfort or pain or those things. And so just learning to be attentive and present to like
asking
Yeah.
questions that she's not asking, that she probably needs you to ask so that she can be loved.
Yeah. And I'm learning there.
Yeah. Those are good things, though. I feel like for me and Cosmo is just, I mean, similar is like, you know, we're always, oftentimes as a husband, you're like Mr. Fix It. Like, okay, this is what's wrong. I'm going to tell you how to fix it. All right. And oftentimes they don't even want a solution. They just want you to listen.
Yeah.
And that's all. I feel like that'll always be hard for me. Husbands, dads is like, man, I just need to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even give any advice.
Yeah.
But just love by listening.
Yeah.
Cool. We're almost there.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think you like this one. What are you most looking forward to as you enter dadhood?
That's a good question.
Little baby boy comes into the world. Maybe initial things, maybe some things as he gets older.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, I think I'm looking forward to just leaning into dadhood, you know?
Popping that stroller out.
Popping that stroller. I think there's a lot of parents that I respect a ton who just like find a way to just like keep doing the stuff that they love and care about. I mean, you guys are that way. Just figuring out like, yeah, okay, if we, you know, if we love as a family being active, how do we do that together with the baby? You know, how do we bring them along in that? And so I think just thinking about, you know, all of the things that we already do and enjoy and just figuring out like how to add a plus one. And I know that may seem naive. I'm sure there's, you know, you're like, yeah, there's some stuff you're just not gonna do.
But you're right. You're totally right. Because like there's things that are priorities in your life, in your marriage and your family that you want to continue. And it could be easy to like, all right, well, we're done with everything. We'll just lock ourselves in the house.
Leaving.
But you're gonna keep doing what you want. But it's important to talk through those things, like whether it's being active or church or friends. You know, like those are good conversations to have.
Yeah. I'm admittedly not super great with babies. So that'll be a learning curve with me. But man, like once a kid hits like a year and a half. I love the toddler stage. So just thinking about running around with my little boy and playing with him and teaching him how to kick a ball and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
it is fun. Even when they start to smile, that was for me. It was like, man, I'm not getting any feedback. As soon as Logan started smiling, I was like, okay, Dad's here. I can do something now. And like, you know, trying to make her laugh. And that, for me, that's where it felt like it started. It was like, okay, Dad's here. Like you're recognizing me maybe a little bit, at least my voice or something. But I feel like, honestly, like my favorite stage is like the next stage for me. It's like every stage, like what I'm trying to say is it keeps getting better. So as you start with the baby, like it honestly just it gets better and better, and it gets harder. Like for sure, in different ways, it gets harder and harder. But it also gets better and better and deeper and more fun, and it's a blast, man. It's a blast. It's a roller coaster, but it's a blast.
Excited, man. It's weird. I was thinking about this week just how maybe this is just a me thing. You'll have to tell me if you were this way too. But like when you picture yourself in the next season of life, you always picture like the ideal version
Sure.
of yourself,
Yeah.
you know, like somehow you're taller, like your
Yeah,
teeth
just got
are
your hair
wider.
cut.
Yeah,
You smell good.
like you never have any like back of the neck, you know,
Yeah.
scragglies, you
Never.
know, and like
Uh-uh.
you just picture like that version
Yeah.
of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you like get to this phase in life, whether that's, you know, whatever, marriage or
Mhm.
kids or, you know, giving away your kids in marriage or
Yeah.
whatever it is, you know,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, I'm still me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm exactly
Feel the same.
Yeah, I'm exactly the me that I've
Uh,
put in the work to be at this point. And
Right,
so I feel like stepping into this is both super exciting, but there's also like that sobering moment too,
Mhm.
where you're like, oh, I've always said like this is the dad that I want to be.
Mm.
And now is the time where I actually
Yeah.
have to like grow into those shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I should be Superman, but I don't feel like Superman.
Yeah.
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 No, totally. It came to my mind that I think it was Rich Baker that gave us this like little analogy of like just my encouragement to you as you go through like in starting
Give it to me.
your family, and is that God's grace is in everything, and starting with baby poop.
Mm.
God's grace is so good. So baby poop, all right, dads, listen in. Starts out by not smelling.
Wow.
Easy to clean up. Like it's weird. It's just goo, black
Yeah.
goo, but it's just easy
Meconium.
cleanup. Doesn't smell. Yeah, what was that?
Merconium.
Well done.
Yeah,
You already know. You're gonna be a great dad.
Working on it.
You know what the black goo's called. And then as they get older and you know like they start having food and stuff, the poop starts getting more complex. But you know what? God is preparing you
Yeah.
each step of the way to be ready for the smelly poop and
Wow.
to be ready for the blowouts.
Mm.
You're not there yet. You're not
No.
ready for the blowouts, but you will be because
Yeah.
God's grace is in every step of the way, seen through the analogy of baby poop.
It's a really great way to look at it. The other way to look at it is like as a real bait and switch, you know?
Oh no, where it just starts.
Yeah, you're like, see how easy this is
Yeah.
going to be? And then,
Yeah.
but we're not going to look at it that way.
We're not. We're going to start with the first diaper.
Yeah.
Diaper
Wow.
one.
A journey of 1,000 footsteps starts
Yeah.
with one diaper.
With one Snuggie. No, not Snuggie. Are they Pampers?
I don't know. You're the dad.
I
man.
should know this. A Snuggie. No, that's one of those blankets you wear. We'll just say a Pamper. Pamper diaper. So there you go. Yeah.
This
one diaper
podcast is not yet sponsored by Pampers.
Yeah.
But Rad Dads is open to it.
Rad, we are open. We are open to sponsors. Andrew, would you mind praying? This will be kind of like a routine for this podcast is having the guest, if you're okay with it. You could say, no, I'll do it.
Okay.
Pray for the dads that are kind of in your spot right now. And maybe even the dads that are coming before your spot as they enter dadhood and thinking about your experience and where they might be at. So if you would be willing to pray for them and kind of close us out, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. Father, I pray for all the dads that I know and all the dads that I don't know who are in this journey of becoming fathers. And I pray for those who their journey has been longer. Maybe it's been marked by disappointment or loss. I pray that even them, Lord, you would convince them of your goodness and your faithfulness, Lord. I pray that for each dad listening, wherever they find themselves in this process of fatherhood, that even as they listen to this podcast, they would just be reminded that you are good, that you're good, that you're going to take care of them, that you're going to provide for each one of us and give each one of us what we need. And for all of the new fathers like myself that are stepping into just all of these new concepts and ideas and decisions, I pray especially that they would just be met in this moment by your Holy Spirit, and that they would just be convinced that you will be enough for them, that you will be enough for their wife, for their spouse, for them, for their kids, that you would convince them of your goodness, and that you will be good to them on this journey called fatherhood. In Jesus' name, amen.
Two episodes in and many more to come. If you like this episode, share it with a dad you know that you feel could use some encouragement. We are both now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you follow us on Spotify, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And if you follow us on Apple Podcasts and you like the episode, leave a 5-star review and follow our show as we continue this journey of fatherhood. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you guys next month in the upcoming episode of Rad Dads.